Welcome everybody on Facebook. Thanks for joining us tonight. Authentic
Yeah.
Messages. Thanks for coming on board with us tonight, Rick. Appreciate it. And
Hey, anytime.
I know it's been a busy probably week for you and everything. And so just glad that everybody was able to make it. I know this is a really important topic. Authentic marriages, we harm ourselves. We've had this vision for this ministry for quite a long time, and helping marriages, especially in minority communities, especially within the Caribbean, is something that's been really important to us. And oftentimes, when we start talking about working on marriages, scriptures are really important, but sometimes we don't get the application right. And so one of the
Okay.
things we always wanted authentic marriages to be is to be authentic. That's the name of it, to make sure that people feel like they can apply the stuff that they're hearing and it's making day-to-day differences for them. So, one of the big conflict areas in marriages is money,
Yes.
Getting on the same page about money. That's a tough thing. And money is so complex. In our workshop we did at the end of April, we had a night that talked about money, and that was one of our most busiest nights because there's so much tied up in money, emotions, and power,
Yeah.
all these different things. And so being able to have the skill set and a plan is a prerequisite if you want to have a marriage that's going to be functional,
Agreed.
and especially once you start to add kids to the picture, careers and all of that, you got to have yourself a plan. So, we wanted to have a night like this, and we were introduced to you by a good friend of ours, Neldra. Thank you. Shout out to Neldra for that hookup there.
Yeah.
And so she put us on you, and she was just really impressed by you, and so we just felt like, okay, we got to get this guy on. We got to get this guy on. And I got to say, just in the brief time I've got to know you and everything that you're about, I'm just really excited. And I think that you're onto something big yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
In big budgets. So let's tell the audience a little bit about you. So Rick or Roderick. So Roderick is your given name.
Roderick's, birth name, but Rick.
Right,
You know
right.
how Rick.
So
Uh,
yeah.
all right. Well, to start a little bit off about myself, like an interview, my name's Rick. But I'm from Athens, Georgia. Um, One of the main things I always tell people when they talk about wealth building or trying to build wealth and how far along I am, I always tell them, hey, there's some generation one, some generation twos. Me, myself, I'm a generation zero. I come directly from governmental housing, governmental assistance. Grew up in a close knit family. We always had, you know, Christmas time was always a good time. All these holidays was always a good time, but the entire family was living paycheck to paycheck. That's just something that we just thought was, back then, early 90s, late 80s was the thing. So one of the things that was accidentally put upon me was, you know, it's standard or it's okay to live paycheck to paycheck. I grew up thinking um, that was a real thing. Like, oh, you got to live paycheck to paycheck, duh, because you get the money, you spend the money, and you
Right.
repeat the process, right? So, and then that was my mindset up until probably I, finished high school, started college a little bit, you know, just just going through the motions with college. But then I joined the military as a combat medic, 68 whiskey. For all my Army veterans out there, 6-day whiskeys, rule life. But but one of the main things that happened is on my deployment in Afghanistan, I ran across a sergeant, big sergeant named Sergeant Simmons. Um, we was over there discussing money because we've been deployed for about 5 or 6 months now, so everybody's starting to have a little bit of money. And he was like, "What you gonna do with your money, young fella?" I was like, "Oh, what you mean, man? I mean, I got money now. I'm finna, I'm gonna spend it. Like, are
Right.
you crazy? Like, I'm gonna spend it all. I got it. I'm gonna spend it." He was like, "Well, I challenge you this, right? how are you going to make sure your kids have money? I'm like, well, I'm going to go home and get a job and I'm going to make sure they can spend money. Um, Terrible mindset. But what he did was he allowed me to finish talking, and then he introduced me to a couple of books. One of the main books was that Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover, right?
Mm,
Um,
it's a big
and
name.
then yeah. So I took that book, I read through it, and I came back probably 2 days later, like, because it only took me like 2 days to read through that book, and I was like, Sergeant Simmons, I got it, man. I'm so far behind financially, and we talked about it. And I told him then, like, hey, there was only one problem I really noticed in those books that he gave me. There was always a cookie cutter plan to follow.
Mm,
There, not saying that there are, but when I was reading those books, I didn't see any examples of, people that fit my description, people that grew up with their grandmother or coming from where I came from,
mm,
flipping it and making it big. It was always people that had like, well, times got hard. We moved back in with my mom. We stayed in the garage 3 years and we were able to make millions. And I'm like, I can't move back in with my mom. And so, um, so I came up with a plan then that, okay, clearly biblically, the first thing you need is a solid foundation, right? So I said, okay, I don't just want to hop out here and say I'm trying to do better with my finances. I need a foundation. So I went to the University of Georgia Southern, go Eagles.
right.
And I got my accounting degree there. And then from Georgia Southern, I started working in different departments as an accountant, as an auditor of some really big firms, and big companies, Fortune 500 companies, just amazing companies. And what I've learned is that from doing that job, I learned accidentally how far behind we are with our financial thinking. Um, just anybody that's just like, it's not even, sometimes not even your fault. It's just we don't have the right information, or we just go by, well, my auntie said or my cousin said to do this and this, like, hey, I just need to get a credit card and all I'm gonna do is just put gas on it and I'm gonna pay it off, and my 500 credit limit is gonna turn to 50,000 somehow just by paying off gas each month. And it's just outdated information. So I took it upon myself to go back to school, study. I've completed my accounting degree, but then after I completed my accounting degree, I felt it was necessary to obtain my CPA. So I completed the studying for that, and whenever the state finalizes that application, I'll officially be a CPA. So that's on the way, but the testing part of it is done. Yeah, man. But so one of the main things I always tell people that, hey, and so I took it upon myself to start my own little side business. That's what was my motivation, was for anybody that was like me or is like me or trying not to be like I was with Generation Zeros or Generation Ones. Generation Ones are people that just, hey, they had some resources, but somewhere along the line they still found a way to get themselves into debt, and they're just trying to work their way out of that debt. So what we do at Baby Budgets is we customize a plan around what individuals like yourself would need as a married man with a wife versus someone that is, having two kids, no other help other than the fact that they are working themselves.
Wow.
And your plan will be different than their plan, but the goal is still the same. Financial freedom through no debt,
Right.
or limited debt, and just increasing your net worth. So that's how we all got started and motivated to get out here and make sure that we're giving the information back and not trying to funnel this information and keep it to myself. And that's a problem as well. Separate problem, but a problem.
Right. So I'm getting some really big things from you, and I know folks are probably already starting to buzz already with questions and comments on Facebook. So guys, don't be shy to post those. We want to start getting into those soon. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you some direct questions, because some things I took away from what you just said was that coming from a background that you've come from, not feeling like you just didn't have the financial literacy. Really, it sounds like
Right. No, absolutely. That's correct. That's fair.
to know what you needed to do. You felt like, okay, all right, I know now that I need to do something about it.
Right.
But when you were introduced to what you could do about it, it felt like there were just not the right answers for your situation. And so you said, okay, like this is great, but maybe some of us are not going to really benefit as much from this. So you
Mhm.
decided that, okay, you're going to leave the army and then get yourself educated. And then you learn some huge lessons. So let me ask you this, because in the
Go.
working world, before you went into your own business and started Baby Budget, you were working with these large companies and learning some lessons. What were some of the biggest lessons you started to learn, you know, doing that kind of work that you feel is really applicable to what you're trying to do now in Baby Budget?
Well, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that I'm I'm thinking about, okay, how do I get a maximum tax return for 2019? Uh, and the people I was working with and working for were already tax planning for 2023, 2024.
Mm,
Their 2020, 2021 tax, they've already planned for that year. They're so far ahead of the curve on tax planning. Each year they put things in place to make sure that they're going to have a good tax year,
right,
years ahead of time. While I'm while I'm trying to think on time, I'm actually thinking behind. Another thing I've learned is that there's no such thing as a zero budget. You know, in most of these classes, you're taught that hey, a perfect budget equals back to zero, but we don't put contingencies in our budget. So when our budget gets a little off, we just throw the whole budget away. Like if I was like, according to how budgets are supposed to be, the standardization of budgets, if I'm supposed to know where every dollar is going of every dollar I make out the door. But as soon as life hits us a little bit, oh man, I got to get this changed out on the car. Oh man, I'm over budget. Just throw the whole budget away.
right,
Um, and that's not how it's supposed to be. Your budget is supposed to have a contingency built in. Like, oh man, that was have $100 or $150. I'm just making up a number. $150 contingency to the side where just like something unexpected happened for $25. Well, I take that out of the contingency. It
right,
doesn't affect my budget.
right,
Um, and so that was some of the main takeaways I've learned, like, and that are applicable to what we are trying to achieve for getting financial wealth ourselves. Build a contingency, have something to the side, that's have contingencies built into your budget. If you don't need it, great.
right.
And stop thinking on time, which is actually behind thinking on your taxes. Don't start tax planning January 1st, 2020 for December 31st, 2019. You
Right.
know? So don't don't try to tax, like right now is what, June 3rd, 2020. Already be thinking about some of the things you can do tax wise that would help you either decrease your tax liability at the end of the year, or increase your return. Just keep your mind flowing, and no matter what your situation is, there is something that you can do, even if it's adjusting your W-4 for your taxable income, either down or up according to your tax bracket. But a lot of people don't know what tax bracket they fall in.
So,
So
yeah, exactly. So let me start breaking some of that stuff down in terms of like like my gears are going in my head, and I was kind of thinking about some of the
yeah.
questions people may be having. So like, well, one, the whole idea of like saying, okay, getting a huge tax return or tax refund is this great thing, right?
Hmm.
And for most people, it's like, oh man, like I got all of these bills and I got this, $2,000 or $1,500 tax refund. Oh, thank God! Like that worked out in my favor, So a lot
Hmm.
of people and think that way, and what you're seeing seems to be completely different. Like that's not really the way you want to be approaching it. And so the idea that your taxes and how you think about your taxes needs to be a big part of your finances seems like a really, like, I think for many people, a novel idea, because most people don't think about their taxes as a part of their financial planning. They just think about, hopefully I get some money back on my taxes this year to pay some,
Mm.
you know?
I'm not mad at that thinking, because Generation Zero, I was definitely waiting on those tax returns.
Right,
Uh, but the thing is, I think it's perspective, right?
right,
So I think it's time to view, okay, the only reason you're getting a $1,500 tax return is because you overpaid the government throughout the year $1,500. They aren't giving you new money, they're just
Right.
giving you your money back.
So what's so bad about that? What's so bad about having paid you
Well,
money
well,
to?
it's not, it's, you know what, and it's not even necessarily something that's necessarily bad, but the problem is you are basically telling the government that, hey, you can do more with this $1,500 throughout the year than I can. And I challenge people and say, that's not true. I feel like you can do more with that $1,500 throughout the year than the government can. So I always tell people, hey, necessarily, if you're getting back $2,500 on your taxes, maybe you should look at how much you're being taxed, because I feel like you can do more with that $2,500. And if you're nervous saying, hey, Rick, I just don't want to owe, I'm like, okay, well, let's go to irs.gov and and see, because I always use authentic websites. Let's go to irs.gov and look at how much your tax withholdings would be
Right.
if you changed them to get to this, because the goal is to ultimately get as low as you can. You don't want to owe the government, and the government, you don't want to owe the government,
Right.
but the government doesn't want to pay you back that refund. They just would rather you pay them exactly what they want throughout the year. So, and you can adjust that on your, on the irs.gov. You can easily go there and check out, hey, let me see my W-4 withholdings. What if I let them tax me at this rate or this rate? And it'll show you, hey, if you let them tax you at this rate, you would owe $22 at the end of the year. And
Mm,
those numbers are almost, depending any other thing outside of that W-4. But if the only thing you have is that W-4, those numbers are almost on point.
I see.
So,
So you go
so,
with a really good idea of like really like, okay, I'm gonna this year I'm gonna overpay if I do this and get a
mhm.
refund later. But what you're saying is that no, you want to make sure you're in a position where you're gonna get that money in your paycheck so you can do something with it.
So you can do something with it, because the sad thing is, and this is something that was pulled directly off TD, I think it was Yahoo Finances, yahoo.finances.com. They did a study and they found out that 58% of Americans, let me see the number, yep, 58% of Americans uh, don't have $1,000 in their bank account, don't have $1,000 in their savings account for an emergency. So
That's over half.
58. So, but more than 58% of people are getting $1,000 back on their tax return. The
Mm,
ones that are getting returns.
right.
So, so if you are getting a return, and that return is a big number, and you like that big number, cool. But the problem is you're basically telling the government you can do more with this money than I can, and I'm challenging you to say that money in your savings are invested for you, because that's a interest-free loan throughout the year. So if you keep giving them interest-free loans for 25 years, and you could have been investing that money per year for 25 years, I guarantee you have missed out on a lot of money. That's the only thing I can guarantee.
So the word I hear sometimes is opportunity cost. So like, instead of, if you're taking that money and invested it in something as opposed to having the government hold on to it until you get refunded, then you could be making a lot more money over time if you just had that money, just invested somewhere, a bond or
Hmm.
like low risk stocks or whatever. You could be making money on that, on that money instead of having it making no money at all for you. So okay, I get that. So let's switch gears a little bit. So you also mentioned
Okay.
contingency, and we're starting to get questions from Facebook. So guys, keep throwing those in because we're going to have a question and answer section coming up very soon. But you mentioned the idea of not just the taxes but the contingency. So making sure that you have contingencies built into your budget. So elaborate on
Yeah.
that.
Okay, and this is why I say it's important. I always like to try to put it all together to make it make
Right.
sense. This is why I say it's important to have contingencies built into your budgets. TD Ameritrade did a study in 2018, I think, and they found out that get the exact number, 40, I think there's 41% of Generation X people, the born late 80s or early 80s or whatever you call Gen X, 41% of people have getting or divorced strictly based on the fact that they can't agree on their finances or their budget. Right.
Right.
So the budget is causing red alerts in marriages. All right. What's the other stat? Marriage and money and mental health. This is a UK survey. They did a survey and found out that 400,000 people consider suicide each year, and 6,000 actually go through it strictly based on the fact that their expenses are higher than their income.
Right.
Strictly based off that. Like no other, everything else in their life was fine, but the fact that their money is, they don't they didn't, I ain't gonna say understand, but the money that they are getting and the expenses is going out for is causing them such heartache that they feel the need that they don't need to be here anymore. And that's tragic. So when I started doing budgets at first through trial and error, I found out that we consistently had about $200 a month of contingencies, money that's just like, we didn't plan on that. Okay, that was a complete disaster, or that didn't work out the way we wanted it to, or ooh, didn't see that one coming.
Right.
So the thing is, after 3 months of having about $200 of contingencies, my thinking on month 4 was, the idea of insanity is repeating the same thing, expecting a different result. So I'm like, I'm not gonna be crazy here. Let's start accounting for these contingencies, because we do want to make sure that at the end of the month we're on the right side of this budget. Um, and it's just through trial and error, seeing what's going on in your personal bank account, seeing what's happening, and just making sure you're on team with, make sure you got somebody that you can talk to about, hey, how would you account for this, or how is this going, or just yeah, contingencies, planning is a part of the budget. At every major Fortune 500 company, they have a contingency account. The reason why they have a contingency account is because they are expecting something unexpected to happen and make them lose money. So they already account for the unexpected money that they haven't even lost yet. And if we want to become our own Fortune 500, we need to do the exact same thing.
So I'm getting a lot of things from you there. I mean, that's like so important, because I think for a lot of people, and I'll put this question to you. I know for a lot of people, the idea of just even budgeting is an anxiety-provoking event, right? And so
Yes.
sitting down with your significant other to figure out, okay, how much money is coming in and how much money is going out and so forth. A lot of people just kind of seize up when they even think about having to do that, much less contingency planning. So what is your response to that? What do you think like people are missing, or what do you think people need to be doing to try to kind of get themselves out of that kind of fear paradigm that keeps them from even sitting down and making a budget?
That's fair. That's really fair. One of the biggest things we teach at Baby Budgets is perspective. And here's what I mean by perspective. Perspective is, um, a lot of times people come through the front door and they say, I don't like my budget. My budget is upside down, or, oh man, look at this, all these bills. I don't have any money left over at the end of the month. And we teach perspective, like, no, don't think about it that way. Let's flip it.
Right.
Let's look at all the blessings you do have. 1, let's look at the fact you got an income coming in. 2, let's look at the fact that you're able to pay your rent, your water, your clothing, your gas and your car, your insurances. You can pay all of this stuff. So we circle all of that stuff and call it, the needs.
Right.
I said the problem is your wants are destroying you. Your wants are the credit card bill payments each month, the car mortgage, the car payment each month. I don't consider a mortgage a want. That's an investment with equity in it. Separate conversation.
Right.
But you're not paying these credit cards off full. You have a car note that's only depreciating every single month you pay it. The car is actually, every time you make another payment, the value of it is keep dropping from what you paid. Right. Your book value and your fair value will never be the same. The moment you started paying on that car. So let's stop paying. Let's get this car paid off, or let's get this credit card paid off. Let's get something paid off, because the moment we get rid of one of those bills, that money comes right back into the house.
Yeah.
Now, because my whole thing is, I can't help you make more money. I can't knock on your boss's front door, show them your budget, and says he needs more money or she needs more money.
Right.
But I can help you cut your expenses to the point where you feel like you got a raise at your job, where you feel like your job just gave you a huge raise, and you're like, I got extra money now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the difference. We only control what we can handle, our expenses. How much money we got coming in, unless we own our own business, is coming directly from another source. We control how much goes out.
Right. So the idea, and I know in our previous conversation that we had a couple of days ago, you mentioned this idea of a habit versus hobby, and
Yes.
how one versus the other. It may not seem that different. I mean, it sounds very similar, but how mindset when it comes to that kind of stuff can really kind of change your financial picture. So elaborate a little bit about that, a habit versus a hobby.
Okay, I really quickly, I'll do that one. The baby budget's definitions of habit versus hobby is the fact that a habit is something that you enjoy. You will enjoy it, but you have to spend money each time to enjoy it. This is going shopping. This is going to restaurants. Going out for a night. Just anything you do, going to the movies. You have to spend money to when you leave to say I enjoyed it. A hobby is something that will probably require a one-time payment, but you can enjoy it multiple times after that. This is photography. You go buy a camera, and now you're going out and you're just taking pictures because, hey, you like photography. This is buying a computer, or buying a microphone for, like we talked about with your business, like you're setting up your podcast.
Right.
You don't have to keep spending money each time you log on or use your equipment. The initial investment was made up front. A hobby can also turn into what they call extra income, because if you get good enough at your hobby, people will pay you to continue your hobby. Man, you took some really good pictures. You mind taking pictures for me? Me and my wife me and my fiance were thinking about taking pictures. Like, oh yeah, I can do that for you. Man, you're really good with that podcast. Do you mind if we talk about it with this, and I can give you some? If you're good enough at your hobby, it can turn into income. If you're good enough at your habit, you'll stay at that.
Right. Okay. So it's a kind of a mindset kind of change that you have
Yes.
to have. So if you're indulging in certain kind of habits, even if they seem pretty kind of not pretty big deals, but they kind of add up over weeks and months and years, you're actually charging yourself at interest rates on the monies you're getting in. That's what you're sounding like.
Yeah, the sad part is you would then, well, I feel safe saying I would, because of my habits, I then become the reason why I don't have any money.
Right.
But I'm also the reason why all the people that have stock in, big Fortune 500 companies are enjoying great dividends, because I'm giving them all of my money, and then they're just chilling on it, watching. Man, stock went up $17 per share this week, and it's all because of me out here blowing all my money.
Right. So, and I mean, a big one I think about, and I'm seeing some more questions coming in on the chat, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes here. Some really good ones, actually. But, one of the ones I think about a lot is Amazon, right? So, shopping on Amazon, they've really codified human behavior down to science of like thinking, okay, not only are we going to make these things easy to look at and purview, get the information you need about these products, we're going to make buying such an easy breeze that, it's point and click, bam, and it's connected to your credit card. So there's no financial transactions going through your mind. It's just going through, the internet, and you don't have to think about it, which is like, impulse buying, gone crazy, right?
Yes, it is.
And now,
Yeah.
Bezos is going to be a trillionaire in about 5 years, So
Yeah.
that's where a habit, I see what you're saying, a habit can become really dangerous. So you're impoverished, and all these other folks are making a ton of money off of that.
Right. And like I'm not even immune to the Amazon bug. I'm not gonna even act right here. Amazon gets me sometime too. Like I just go in there look for something like, oh, they have that add to cart and
Right.
then they have the buy now swipe. And I'm like, oh man, they got me. Uh, but yeah, I mean I think Amazon is a great example. Amazon has gotten so big now. Amazon used to be you had to just buy it. Now Amazon's gotten so big, they're like, no, 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 don't worry about affording it right now. We'll give you a 6 month payment plan on it. Like, don't even, no, 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 no. We know you don't have all the money for this, and that's fine.
That's fine.
We'll 6 months no interest. Just buy it now. Um, yeah. So and Amazon, I'm not picking on Amazon because I do like Amazon. But if you think about Amazon as a totality, there are millions of people spending billions of dollars on Amazon of money they don't even have. So it's no coincidence that the owner of Amazon is on. It just made the news saying, "Hey, y'all do realize he's going to be a trillionaire soon
Right.
because there's billions of people spending billions of dollars going directly to his company." So yeah, the math makes sense.
Math makes sense.
But at the same time, it doesn't help me. Yeah, but it doesn't help me
Right.
because at the end of the year, I don't have any money in my bank account, but I got a ton of Amazon boxes throughout the house.
Right, right. And it's not like if you show up to Jeff Bezos's house once he becomes a trillionaire. So, "Hey, Jeff, I mean, I know I participated in your rise and I want I want us to celebrate." It's like, no, I don't know you,
Uh,
but you can
it,
keep more money.
I don't know you. Go buy 2 shares, and I'll see you online for the company meeting next spring.
Exactly, exactly. You know. So we've got about 15 minutes before we head into the question and answer section, and guys, keep throwing in those comments and questions through Facebook. But I wanted to get to a couple of the things that you mentioned before in our previous conversation that you wanted to talk about a little bit tonight. So one of the big things you spoke about was the 28-3 plan. So the 28-3 plan,
Yes.
yes. So elaborate a little bit about
Okay.
and make sure to give the backstory on that because and
I will, and I'm sorry to all my Atlanta Falcons fans, right? But the 28-3 plan was directly derived from watching that game.
uh,
Uh, I'm saying that hurts my heart.
game a couple years ago where Atlanta was up 28-3 at a half.
Right. Yeah, late in the third, they were up 28-3 and found a way to blow the lead and lose the Super Bowl, for those that don't know. Geez, and if you did know before that, you were probably good, but now that's terrible. but but the 28-3 plan, literally, we do a financial assessment when people come through the front door, or that we email them, we talk to them, we do a financial assessment on them. Some people are on the 28 side. 28 means that hey, they have enough wealth, they're starting to build wealth, they out of debt, they don't have anything but their mortgage, right? And now they're trying to find a way to accelerate their gains so that they continue to build on that wealth they have. They're on the 28 side. When you're on the 28 side, our goal is to make sure you never blow your lead. We make sure that you're protected. You have protected yourself in all shapes, ways, and facets. Just, do you have enough in savings? Do you have enough expenses where you can actually invest? And if you get a phone call in the middle of the night from a broker saying, "Hey, the market just crashed. I'm so sorry. You lost everything that was invested in this account." Will you wake up and start crying, or will you roll back over and go to sleep? That's the difference between financial security right there. If you wake up and start crying, that means you had no business investing that much anyway. All
Right.
right.
Kind of over,
So
so you didn't realize.
right. So we make sure you're protected on all aspects, and then we keep you aware of any new opportunities that are usually stick to safe opportunities. We let the financial advisors give you all that, but since we're on the financial strategy side, we just try to help you stay comfortable, because the problem is every time the stock market crashes, people that look like me end up losing way more. So since that is true, I make sure that you're protected way more. Um, Now for the three side, and if you're not unfamiliar with the 28-3 side, the Patriots were at a three, but they perfectly executed their defense and offense for the next quarter and a half until they tied the game, and then they won the game. right? So if you're on the 3 side, these are my people that are like me. These are my Generation Zs that are coming from a financial disadvantage, and they're trying to cover the ground to get better. We make sure that your expenses are perfectly executed. We make sure that how you move your money is perfectly executed. We don't touch your money for you. We just make recommendations
Right.
on how you should be treating your money,
Right.
and to the point where you slowly start to come back in the game. Like, oh man, I don't only had $20 in my savings account. Now I'm up to 500. Now I'm up to 1,000. Now I'm out of credit card debt. Now I'm focused on this car. Now I'm out of car debt. Now I have this extra money, and we make sure you have enough to where ultimately you come back from your bad position you were in, and now you're winning and you win.
Right.
And that's the 28-3 plan. It's the most common plan we have, because usually people fall in those two buckets. Either they're at an advantage or they're at a disadvantage, and we just find a way to. So with the 3, we kind of heavily stay involved in what they do weekly. But with the 28s, we kind of like, hey, here goes another opportunity here for you to save something. Do it. We highly recommend you do it, or you can try this out, and we just talk that out.
Okay, okay. So, one of the things that you actually mentioned there, I wanted to ask you about, was the idea of like a financial advisor versus financial strategizing, or a financial strategizer. And so you guys see
Mm-hmm.
yourself more on the strategizing side versus the advising side. So, and I've seen a lot about this, on different kind of programs, news and all that kind of stuff. So elaborate a little bit about the differences there, and why that difference is important.
Well, I think a different financial advisor, when usually when you deal with financial advisors, it's somebody that's going to be able to help you, tell you where exactly to move your money. You can show up with $10,000 on a desk and say, where do I move this money? And they say, absolutely, you move it in, 80% bonds, 20% stock. Right now you're over 45. It's just play it safe. Don't be aggressive. Stock is a young man's game. Financial strategy and financial advisors statistically don't have time to work with people that come in the office and be like, I don't have any money. I just need somebody to help me with my budget. You know,
Mhm.
that's usually fall on the. There are financial advisors that are financial strategists, but usually financial strategists help somebody that's on the lower end of the scale trying to get up there to get money. Financial advisors usually have a fee up front. Hey man, $2,000 up front. I'll help you move your money. And financial strategists kind of like, okay, we know you're trying to build wealth. We know you don't come from a background with wealth. So you're not going to have $500 to give me, because if you had $500 to give me, you wouldn't be here right now trying to figure out how to get $20 back into your account on the positive side.
Right,
So
right. So let me ask you this: why should somebody who, let's say, they do have more money, kind of put away, and they seem to be in a better position, they're at 28 spot, right?
mm-hmm.
Why would they choose like a financial strategist versus a financial advisor, or maybe not versus, but like, why would they go to a financial strategist?
Okay, so a financial strategist, and this is what I do, financial strategists usually just help you shake up the snow globe. They usually help you look at your budget and say, hey, here goes some opportunities for you to save more money, or here goes an opportunity for you to do something with your money, where a financial advisor will just take the money and invest it. But sometimes people don't feel comfortable with investing. Sometimes people's strategy is, hey, I really don't want to invest in that. I don't know too much about the stock market. All I know is that you can lose a lot of money. So a financial strategist is like, well, what are you comfortable with? And you find out that, hey, they might just be comfortable with getting a rental property as something that they like managing. They like hands-on seeing their money they like hands-on seeing where their money's going, and they like hands-on being able to say when they can pull their money, or
Right,
or get to watch their money.
right.
So yeah, so I think that would probably be the key. There are probably some knickknacks in there between, but I would think that that's one of the biggest keys,
I
between the strategist and an advisor.
So I want to start to take some questions from Facebook. Uh,
Yeah.
so one of the questions that came on pretty early in the chat was, you know, so this is more a mortgage related question, and I think that's coming up more and more during this time of, this kind of coronavirus pandemic and the
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah.
situation that has occurred. But so, what would you suggest a couple with no debt apart from a mortgage focus on? One, accelerated mortgage reduction, or two, retirement planning, I'm assuming that means more investments for retirement.
Okay.
So
Uh,
what would you suggest that a couple do who doesn't have any debt outside a mortgage, their mortgage debt due, and that's in this.
okay. Oh, okay. That's a good one. I would have probably asked what was the age. What age are we looking at right here? Are we 35? Are we 25? Are we 55?
Right.
That makes a difference. But nonetheless, um, when first of all, you're almost out of the game, so congratulations, you're almost there. If you were gonna take an accelerated mortgage um, route, that's probably a two-part answer. I'll try to speed it up. To take an accelerated mortgage route, your choices are A, hand them the money for an accelerated mortgage, paying it down faster, like giving them an extra $1,000 a month or extra $500 a month, or B, putting that instead of handing them the $500 a month, you put the $500 a month in a kind of bonds, um, or a really safe place where it's not going to grow a lot. You know for a fact you're not going to get a lot of you're not going to turn $500 into a million, but you're not going to lose money either. And the reason why I usually tell people, hey, just put the money to the side for yourself, is because if, let's say, 5 years down the road, you have been giving them an extra $500 a month. So you've been giving them an extra $6,000 a year, $30,000. You gave them $30,000. You just gave them $30,000. 5 years down the road, if you gave yourself that same $30,000 and it was earning like 2, 3, or 4% because it was safely in a bond, then you would have more than the money you gave out. So if 5 years down the road, you can give them their $30,000 and still be sitting on an extra 2,500 of money that was made during the time it was being saved. Um,
I see.
so you can accelerated mortgage, I guess, can work both ways. But you were talking, brother. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, and as far as 401k planning, throwing money into investing, um, I would definitely say, hey, what's the age? That's important. But over it all, it I always think that's a great idea to invest through your 401k, because time values money. I can't say that enough. I know it's my first time saying it, but literally with investing, time values money. If I put it, I'm 32. If I put in $1,000 each week for the rest of my life, and then an 18-year-old puts in $1,000, well, if I put in $1,000 until I'm 50, at the age of 32, that's 18 years of saving. But if an 18-year-old do the same thing up until the age of 50, that's 32 years of savings. And that 18-year-old, our money won't even be comparable. I'll be in the 700, 600, $500,000 range. He'll be in the million, 3 million, 5 million range, because time values money. So yeah, when it comes to 401k investing, I would definitely consider that a realistic option. But I guess, which one is more important for you right now? Are you more focused on just trying to get rid of all debt, which will be that accelerated mortgage? You can either hand them the cash, or you can put the cash aside for yourself and then do an amortization schedule. I don't want to go too deep into, but
Right.
if you do an amortization schedule, and there's going to be a middle point. There's going to be where you're at right now and the money you're putting aside, and then eventually each month payment, there's going to be a middle point, and then you'll have enough money in savings to walk in, pay them off, but you'll also have extra thousands of dollars to yourself just sitting aside. Um, the give off to that is, the con is, of course, you've paid a little bit more interest over that,
Right.
but you would have more money you would have made more money on interest than you have given up in interest.
Right. So that's the big question. Like how much your interest rate is on your mortgage versus the interest rates that you're making on the money you would have been investing. That's a big question to be asking yourself when making that decision. And I guess also what stage of life you're in and so forth. How much
Yes.
you want to pay off, whether you're closer to retirement, maybe you want to pay those things off. So you have less of those kinds of things kind of weighing on you when you're earning your retirement income and that kind of thing. Okay, so that was a really good question actually, and I wanted to actually kind of relate that to this whole idea about in this point in time for a lot of people during the coronavirus, there's a lot of financial insecurity that's going on, a lot of
That's
insecurity
fair.
going on. But there's some people who definitely have more security right now. They feel more positive about the situation. Well, what do you think about this idea then of trying to get your house maybe refinanced at this point in time, and trying to go for a lower interest rate because interest rates have been slashed so much?
That's
Um,
fair. That's a really good question. I feel like that's something to look into. It's definitely something to actually take time to look into. Like for my personal situation, my interest rate was above a 4%, and then because I got a phone call saying that, hey man, interest rates are below 3%, close to 2.75. You know, and looking at my personal situation, like okay, if you've only been in a house a year or so, and you do the math and you reprint the amortization schedules and you see how much money you're going to save, then it's definitely something worth looking into. Don't just blow it over the opportunity. But if you're on year 25 or year 15,
right.
it's not as easy as a decision to make,
Mhm.
because refinancing also resets your time.
Right.
So if you're 13 years on a mortgage with 17 years to go, refinancing doesn't mean they're going to split it out over the 17 years. They're going to split it out over a new 30-year period.
Right.
So be careful and just know what we talked about earlier, opportunity costs. Be aware of your opportunity costs, but definitely don't be afraid to pick up the phone, or they're calling you pretty much. Just answer the phone and say, "Yes, I'm interested. How much would this save me per month?"
Right.
And then talk about your buyback, or your payback period. Your payback period is, sometimes to refinance you have to pay, a couple $1,000, not a lot, maybe $2,000 $3,000, but they'll have a payback schedule made for you saying that, well, you're saving $300 a month by refinancing. So in 10 months, I'm making these numbers up,
Right. Yeah.
but in 10 months you would have recouped your $3,000 you gave to refinance, and then after 10 months it's all green.
Right.
So it's definitely worth looking into. Yeah, and just more on a personal basis, your income, your expenses, your household, what you need to be doing, in order to keep your household stable. It's all about house stability and not making decisions that are just quick that could put your house in danger. It's all about protecting yours.
Yeah.
Remember, we got to protect ourselves more than. So yeah, yeah.
Because the whole idea is you don't want to be doing something that's so aggressive that you say I'm going to save a ton of money by the end of this, but like I'm putting myself in a at-risk situation trying to do that.
Right. And that's what we don't want. We don't want you to say, "Hey, I got a lower interest rate," but you were only 10 years away from completing your mortgage. Like what like
That is
no, it's a new 30-year period. Like you just reset your time. It's not a new rate.
right.
Like so yeah, just being financially aware of the situation you're in, because that can go either way. But yes, personally, it was something I looked into. I liked what they were saying, so I took it. But it should be done on a case by case, couple by couple basis. If you like, this is not a decision to make on your own. Make sure that you're
Right.
unless you're on your own. But if you're not on your own, this is not a on your own decision.
You don't want any financial infidelity going on with
Yeah.
your home where your partner think, oh, we got 10 more years left, and then he's like, no, we're
And you're
gonna.
like, oh no, we got 30 more years, but we do got a lower rate.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to walk into that. Another question from the chat is this relates back to the tax questions we were talking about earlier on. So
Okay.
some people use tax refunds as a forced savings plan. If
Hmm.
so, people in Gen Zero or Gen One be better off setting themselves up to receive tax refunds?
Okay. So generation, I've been through the ultimate, so yeah, with personally, are they asking that we need to focus on keep getting a tax refund, or what was the question?
What they're saying is like, look, we are just so cash negative that we are using it as a forced savings plan. We're like, and I think a part of that is to maybe
That's true.
their habits and whether or not you're not saving the way you should. So the tax refund is like a forced savings because it's like we can't touch that money because it's not in our hands because the government has it. So they're asking whether we should let the government hold on to that money because we can't seem to hold on to money for ourselves given our current situation.
Hey, you know what? That is a financially responsible person right there. Let me tell you why. Because I'm working with people now that are just like, Rick. I hear what you're saying, but trust me, bro. If I got an extra $400 back per paycheck, I would spend an extra $400 back per paycheck. So I like the fact I get a $3,200 refund. Even I know they're overtaxing me, and I'm okay with that because it forces me to save when I get the check back. But if they gave it back to me throughout the year, I'd spend it. And I said, you know what, brother, you know yourself, keep it the way it is. Then no need to touch your W-4. But yeah, if I guess what I should have said earlier, my brother or my sister, whoever asked the question, is that um, a lot of people aren't necessarily aware that they're overpaying the government. So then they just take the refund like, yes, I got money back, not realizing it was their money at the same time.
Right.
But I guess the only thing I want to, I guess, be aware of and just be cautious of is that each each year you let that government keep. Perfect example. If you let the government keep that money in 2018, I think the S&P 500 finished at almost an all-time high.
Yeah.
So if you let the government keep, like, if you got a $2,000 tax refund, that $2,000 could have made you $450, $500 just by sitting in an investment account. But the government gave you back your $2,000. So I just want you to be aware of the fact that, hey, over time you are losing money because it's an interest-free loan to the government.
Right.
But as long as you're like, hey man, I understand that I might be losing some interest, but if you give me the money, I'll spend it. That's okay. Then we probably just need to look at the expenses and try to find some more ways for you to cut some of those, and then that way you can feel more comfortable with saying, you know what, government, I'm responsible now for my money. I don't need you to hold it. I got it. And then we can talk about reducing those.
Right. Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. What would you
But
say?
not good question though.
That's a great question. A great question and very insightful. What would you say though, maybe about maybe potentially like doing automatic deductions from your paycheck to say, hey, so that money doesn't show up in your bank account. It automatically gets put into some kind of investment or savings or something like that. So you can't even touch the money. So you can't, you don't even have to be disciplined because you literally can't touch the money. What would you say about doing something?
Right. So I mean, I would go for it if you have a W-4 job or a W-2 job that allows you to say, hey man, we're going to invest this money pre-tax into a 401k plan through the company, and then after X amount of years it's going to be vested, and we're going to match it. Then yeah, go for it because now you're trusting yourself with that money, and
Right.
you're allowing yourself to come up on your own wages. Uh, my computer about to die. Let me charge it real quick. Let me grab a charger.
Problem.
uh, uh, all right. Can you still hear me?
I'm hearing you. So,
Okay.
so that whole idea then of um of being, I guess, disciplined enough to make sure that you take that money out and invest it, so you can't even touch it as a W-4, W-2 employee. You should be able to do that in an effective way, so that you don't have to worry about how disciplined you are. You can actually get those monies into an investment, and you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be spending it on Amazon purchases.
Right.
Right.
And yeah, and I guess it all just comes back to how you want to view it and how do you I'm trying to just keep it all moving that way I don't but yeah, if you don't trust yourself
Right.
with the money yet, that's fine. That's sometimes called just self-realization. Hey, I'm not good enough with it yet, bro. I would rather them hold on to it and I just save it because I can't keep money in my pocket right now. But then the goal is to get you to a point where you're like, hey, I don't need y'all to keep my money. It's my money and I need it now, like that JG Wentworth commercial or
Right, right.
something.
Jacob and Wentworth, right. So let me get to another question. I think this is actually related to that, maybe to that 28-3 plan you mentioned earlier on about what. So, so how do you start planning for retirement at 49 years old? What is the goal,
Okay.
and how can you be, and how to as an independent contractor? So, how do you start planning for retirement at 49, and what is the goal, and how to as an independent contractor?
Okay. Let me see. Um, okay, that's a multi-part question.
Right.
Um, the with an independent contractor at the age of 49, you are, if you go on irs.gov, you'll see that they have special incentives for you to be able to, like, I can only put into a Roth IRA a X amount of money at the age of 32. But since you are closer to retirement, they allow for you what they call a catch-up phase.
Mhm.
In this catch-up phase, you'll be allowed to invest more than I can. But what the ultimate goal would be is for you to make up on some of that time you lost.
I see.
Um, but if for an independent contractor, yeah, I would definitely start on irs.gov to find out exactly the catch-up plan that they have in place. As y'all can see, I only send you to sites where I know, like, that where I know you're going to find the information you need. But yeah, irs.gov will definitely help um, point you in the right direction. But then on a more personal level, I would probably, that's somebody, and that's a question I would probably have to email you after I get more information on, because I don't have necessarily that information just at the cuff of my hand. And before I start lying to you, I just rather let you know, like, hey man, I don't have that exact number or
Right.
that exact answer, but I do not mind looking it up and getting with you maybe after the call or later next week, whatever, and then we just talk about it to try to figure out exactly how we can help you cover the spread. Because over the age of 40, I like to call it covering the spread. Like, what can we do? Okay, you didn't know about investing, you didn't invest, or you just chose not to. That's cool. That's fine. We no time machines here. We don't care. How do we help you cover the spread to get back some of that lost time? And the government has a plan in place, but we can also shred through expenses or deductions and try to help you recoup more to try to help you get ahead of the game as well.
Right. Okay. 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 That's what, as you said before, there's no cookie cutter plan. Even at a certain age, you still have to really be aware of what's going on with you, your W-2, independent contractor, that kind of stuff, and making sure that the plan, as you said, is focused for you where you are literally as a person, because not every 49-year-old has the same situation going on. Okay.
That's right.
So, I wanted to ask you another big question here, because I think this is a lot of people are going through this situation. So, this kind of sandwich generation we talk about, where people are stuck between having kids, but then having older parents as well that start taking care of.
Ooh,
So this question
that's
is,
fair.
what recommendations of financial focus would you give for those of us that are sandwiched between children, at having young children, plus
Hmm.
loans, and then the other side of taking care of parents in assisted living facilities? What strategies would you recommend of areas to focus on to minimize costs?
Okay, so the sandwich generation, yeah, that's real. First of all, the biggest thing is we usually for and this is usually we usually with people that are like, hey man, moms had to move back in, and we got two of our own, or dad had to move in, or dad, whatever. I'm now financially responsible for my parent, and I'm financially responsible for these kids.
Right.
The This is the three side of the 28-3 plan.
Right.
It's very important that we look at the income coming in, the expenses going out, and we execute on those expenses, getting down whatever doesn't need to be there, getting rid of whatever doesn't need to be there, because we have to create a bigger gap of free money per month in your bank account. Um, to my personal recommendation would definitely be taking apart your budget, your expenses. And some people say they don't know where to start on the budget. That's cool. The best place to start on your budget is your bank account. Whatever your debit card is being swiped on the most, that's where we need to focus. Wherever it's going outside of that, we need to look at everything, because when on being on the three side, you have to every penny coming in needs to be not every penny. That's too, every $10 coming in. We need to have a name on it. Every $10. Where is it going? Where does this $10? What did this $10 do? What is this $10 do? And we need to try to figure out ways to save a dollar. So we need to put a name on the $10 coming in, and need to put a way to save a dollar. Eventually, the plan is we'll figure out and we'll create a little bit of wiggle room for you to take out something like debt, or start attacking that debt, or just start looking at that debt differently, separating it out, figuring out what you can do with, what you can do without, and just figure out a way to get you back in a place where you can financially breathe. Because unfortunately, that's the quickest way to financially drain a person from the top and the bottom. Um, the overhead with your parents, and then the underhead with your kids is the quickest way to lose sight and just be like, you know what, I'm just making the minimum payments now. I'm not even focused on trying to, and now you're not even trying to build wealth anymore. You're just trying to survive. And that's scary, but it's real, and it is, and I definitely respect the situation. So yeah, that's a situation where just being financially aware and keeping up with your dollars will really help.
Right, right. So don't kind of go into a panic kind of state where it's just like, no matter, like I'm behind the eight ball, it doesn't really matter, and so I'm just going to do what I need to do, but still not really have a plan in place
Right.
to kind of try to at least mitigate the situation. You're just kind of just allowing the situation to kind of roll over you, kind of a thing, and you just kind of go with it. So you don't want to do that. Okay.
Right, right. Stand tough, and financially stand tough, and say we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna move through it. We're gonna keep up with the dollars going out, and we're gonna make a plan. We're gonna. It might be 6 weeks, 3 weeks, but I'm finna find a way to save $50 this week. I'm finna find a way to save $20 this week. I'm finna find a way, and you do that until. And I've been in that boat. That's why I'm saying it. And you do that until you don't carved out an extra $120 a month. Now the extra $120 is going toward that credit card you were making a minimum on, and
Right.
now you've started a debt snowball. So
Right. Okay. Okay. So, that goes to one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Not a question from the chat, but, you had mentioned previously about this idea of having marriage goals and agreement, because oftentimes couples walk into situations where, hey, you get married, everything is good, you may or may not be saving, and then you got yourself a couple kids, parents start to get older, and
yep.
they may not be in the best financial situation, you weren't aware. So you talked a little bit about marriage goals and agreements. So can you elaborate on that as it comes to regards finances?
So one of the main things I like to talk about with marriage goals and agreements is it's very like I've found out that sometimes it can sound like we're speaking each other's language up front. And one specific case was it sounded like a couple was speaking each other's language. One person said, "Hey, I really need to improve my credit score. I want a higher credit score," and the other person was like, "Great, and I want a house." Those sounded like they were financially on the same page, but once we did a financial assessment, it came to light that the reason why this person wanted a high credit score, well, he wanted a high credit score, is because he wanted a new car. The only reason he wanted a high credit score was for a new car. He didn't want a house. And the only reason she wanted a house was because she was ready to move forward with kids. And it and then during the financial assessment, what came out was, just one of those questions like, well, what are we doing? And, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist at all. So I just sit there like that's not in my realm. But the thing is, sometimes we can be a couple, and on the surface, it sounds like we have the same financial goals, but digging a little deep, we don't. And it's important to have the same financial goals. We need to sit down and figure out the the best part about that story is they were able to get on the same page. He got his high credit score. She got the house that they wanted. They had kids, and he got a car. He ultimately got a car, but he didn't even want the car he wanted anymore, because he was like, that car costs too much money. I'm like, oh wow, you think? Why you think they wanted you to have a 750 credit score to get it? but but yeah, I don't want that car anymore. I'll just take this car. Like, yay, good thinking, bro. But the one thing I always tell people is that it's important to have the financial goals mirror or at least complement your spouse. What I found helpful is that sometimes you can have what I like to call a coach-player relationship. It sounds like one person got the upper hand, right? But let me break it down and show you. The coach-player relationship is this: the coach makes the game plan. So the coach is the one that's going to sit down and make the budget. The player is going to be the one that makes sure that the game plan or the budget gets executed.
Right.
All right. But here's so it sounds like the coach has the upper hand, but here goes. Here goes the full story. When the players are executing the coach's game plan, if the players find any fault in that game plan, they have what they call a players only meeting, and the players bring it to the coach, be like, hey, this isn't working, this needs to change. Because since the players are the one that's executing it, they would know exactly what needs to be changed and what needs to be updated. So it's on the coach. Any good coach would listen to their players and make sure that they adjust the game plan accordingly so that the players feel more comfortable executing the game plan. The ultimate goal in this is once you pick a role and you move forward with it, it just shows you that eventually it's going to be the point where you don't know who is the one leading the financial budget, and that's what you want. Like, I'm creating the budget, but she's executing the budget, and then she tells me, hey, this isn't enough, you need to change this one up. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, so the food budget isn't enough, but how about the gas? Like, oh, you put too much money in gas. We had to go nowhere because of COVID-19. So yeah, so you got way too much money expense for gas right now. You need to drop that, and you need to increase the budget, because we're eating 3 meals a day at the house now. We're not eating out anymore. And so, like, my wife executes the game plan to perfection, and it's my job to create the game plan. But then I don't get to say, well, I created this budget, you get to make it work. No, that's not how a good coach works. When the player says, hey, change this needs to be executed better, that's what you do. So that's part of the players coach thing that I like to talk about, making sure that, because once you got a role, you can execute that role. And making sure you have the correct goals. Make sure at the end of the day, if I'm going out and somebody say, hey man, Rick, what do you plan to be financially in 5 years? And my wife's somewhere else and somebody asks her the same question, even though we're apart, we should still be saying the exact same thing, because our goals are the exact same.
So one of the things I'm getting from that, because I know, you know, well, a couple things. So one is this whole idea that, you're a team. So
Hmm.
you and your spouse has to be a team. It can't be a situation where, like, one person is doing their thing, the other person is doing the other, and both people are in the dark about the situations, about what's happening with the money. But also, if you are going to collaborate, it can't be like just one person's like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. And the other person's like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that because you told me to. It has to be kind of like you have to have a shared vision for the monies that you have, and like how you want that money to be used, and if that's going to be giving it to charity, or that's going to be like investing or whatever
Hmm.
it is. You have to be on the same page as a couple, even if one person may have a bit more acumen, more greater ability with budgeting. Both people have to be on the same page so that things can be executed in the right way.
Yes, and I agree with you 100% on that. That's correct, because the thing is, I always, and this is the reason why I always tell couples, you both have to be involved on the budgeting strategy. And then I say, you both have a birth certificate, but you don't know when your death certificate is. If one person dominates the budget and the Lord calls that person home, then what just happened to all the, like, this person doesn't even know how to log into finding out what the mortgage is or how to pay the light bill, because it was coming out of this account, and man, I don't know, I didn't handle the money, so I don't know how
Right.
to fix this. You know what I'm saying? So now even though you thought by you dominating the budget, you were putting your house in a great position. If the Lord so chooses to call you home, now your house is at a temporarily, at least, at a financial disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
When it could have been, we love them, we miss them, but we know exactly what to do to keep the house moving forward. It's going to be tough already. It's going to be tough already, missing you.
Moving the person.
Let's not add another stressor because we don't know where the money's coming from or how to get the money out to the right people.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely important for no other reason than to keep your spouse in the loop on how the money is spent, where's it going, how much is getting back, so that or they know, okay, I if the ball is dropped, I know exactly how to pick it up and how to run with it.
Right. Okay. So, we're getting some really good questions here from the chat. So, guys, if you have any more questions, please post it. 'Cause I know we're winding down on time, and I know there are probably going to be more questions we won't be able to get to. But one of the questions that came up was, what are some of the key things to think about or inquire about when shopping around for a financial advisor? So, what are
Ooh,
you thinking about?
I'm glad you brought that up. Trust. My key thing is always is an old Ronald Reagan slogan. It's called trust but verify.
Yes,
Uh, it, we do not do that enough. Even like I'm talking to all you guys today, but earlier on I brought up some stats that said, Yahoo Financial said this, and TD Ameritrade did a trade on this. Look it up. Like, make sure I'm not just saying stuff that it sounds good up front. So, since it sounds good, it got to be true. Our number one problem is in our community is if somebody says something or comes highly recommended from somebody else, then, oh no, he's a good person, he won't financially try to mislead me.
Mhm.
That's not true. Always assume the best in a person. Always assume that person, this person seems okay, but verify everything they say. If
Right.
that person says that they can get you a 22% return, and you see that you go on the stock market and see that the stock market is averaging 7%, you say, how? No, I'm not giving you a dime. How? Show me the statistical stats on how you turned, and our stock market is only averaging 7%. How did you get 22 back?
Right.
Like, how? That's not being rude. I think one of the best things we can do, look shopping for a financial advisor, is see what they have, what I call water and lemonade. Water is something that you should be able to get for free. Lemonade you have to pay for. If you go shopping for a financial advisor and the first thing they say is, I want to talk to you, but it's $300 to even hold a meeting with you. That mm, you don't have anything to show me that you can bring me before I start handing you money? That might be a red flag. I mean, just stay sharp, stay vigilant, always verify what you're being told. And I think if you do that, you'll end up with a financial advisor that has your best interests at heart. Remember, their best interest is your best interest because they're trying to make as much money off you as possible. So your job should be to get to make as much money off of their advice as possible or their strategy as possible.
Right.
And if they don't, and if you just go home and say, they say, man, I can get you 15%, and you go home and see that the stock market is currently at 7, I would question it. I would start asking questions. But a lot of times we don't know where to start at, so we don't know the questions to ask. So we just do like this. Okay, sound good. Okay, cool. And we just roll along with it. Meanwhile, they're just taking money out of our account. And yeah,
Right.
yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. But it happens. It happens. I respect it. But I feel like we can beat that curve by just verifying everything that they say, including myself. Verify it, please.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember watching this program last week tonight, actually, with John Oliver. Cara and myself were watching it a couple years ago.
Yay.
They talked about financial advisors and this whole idea of, I think I forgot the term, but it's like something like a fiduciary responsibility or something like that, where the financial advisor. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they automatically assume because they're your advisor that they have your best interest at heart financially.
Right.
Well, a financial advisor, despite what their name seems to indicate, doesn't necessarily mean that they have a fiduciary responsibility to you. Their number one goal may really be just themselves and making money for themselves off of you, even if at the end of the whole tale and you're getting ready to retire, it's like, I thought I was going to have, $2 million in here. And it's like, you got, 500,000 instead. You got half your money eaten up with fees and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
a financial advisor doesn't necessarily have a fiduciary responsibility towards you. They make it.
Right. They have a fiduciary responsibility to not commit fraud with your money. But if they invested in if they invested in an account that's underachieving, then that's not fraud. That's just whatever. But at the time, I mean, if for and I just want to clarify fiduciary responsibility. Fiduciary responsibility means that I have to do this, or there will be ramifications for my actions. A lifeguard has a fiduciary responsibility if they see someone drowning in a swimming pool that they are watching, to try to save that person's life. They can't just let them drown. A financial advisor has a fiduciary responsibility to not take your money and run to a non-jurisdictionary country or something. Like, he can't do that with your money. But if he underachieves the goals, the lofty expectations that he set for you, that's not fraud. That's just, I got you. I legally got you. Yeah. So yeah, please keep an eye on that. Yeah, that was great. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. All right, so another question from the chat, and guys, please start, keep putting in some more questions here. These are really good stuff. While paying off debt, would you recommend putting money in savings account monthly? Is there a certain amount that you would recommend people have in savings?
All right.
And that's
So
part one. So you can answer that, and there's a part two to the question.
okay. Part one. Yes. I always believe in a protect yourself method first. And if you talk to anybody I ever worked with, the first thing they'll say is, yeah, Rick gonna tell you to protect yourself. Because what's the point if you got $4,000 worth of debt and if you're taking $400 a month and giving it to the people you owe per month, the first contingency you have in your budget, you're going to slip. The first time something happens and you just need an extra $400 to pay it off on yourself, you don't have it, then you're going to have to go into more debt to get it. So while you're paying off debt, it is important to pay yourself. It may prolong how many months of paying off the debt you will have, but it will also protect yourself if something else happens that you were not planning for. There's no need in keeping your account at zero to pay off a debt faster, at the same time knowing that if a $200 emergency happened, you have to go find $200 somewhere to pay it off. So I would definitely look at trying to save, not necessarily on a dollar amount, but if you're at zero, trying your best to get to 300. If you're at 300, trying to get to 1,000. If you're at 1,000, trying to get to 1,500, because your ultimate goal is to have at least 6 months of your expenses. Meaning that if all of your income was to stop, and Lord forbid it would, but if all of your income was to stop,
right,
could you reach into your savings and live 6 months unimpeded? That's the goal. And that goal at first sounds kind of lofty. I remember when I first heard it, I'm like, that's not possible. But now that I'm in the middle of all this COVID-19 and watching people, financially lose their positions, and then I'm thinking, wow, like, if that was to happen to me, like, this household would be okay. We would be perfectly fine. Nothing, it wouldn't affect anything. And I think that's the ultimate goal. But yes. Your mindset is right on paying off the debt, and your mindset is right on saving. If you're, a easy number to save to, or an easy number for me to tell you to try to get to, is 1,000. But if you feel like, man, come on, 1,000 right now and this time, cool, 500. Right.
let's get it to the point where if something was to happen, an emergency of any kind, you would not financially flip out. You'll be like, I am cool with that. That happened, and I'm okay. I'm gonna take $200 out of my savings, and I'm gonna keep paying off this debt, and I'm gonna be okay.
Right. So let me ask you this then, because let's say the idea of the 6 months, put away of expenses, if you're in a situation you can do that. So would that all be like 6 months of money worth sitting in a checking account somewhere, or would it be kind of like some money here, some money there, but it's easily accessible? What are your thoughts about that?
With myself, now there's different strategies, y'all. This is not a bulletproof. Everybody needs to do it this way. Myself, I have the expenses on standby in just a savings account. Now, here's the con with that. The con with having it, the pro is it's easy to get to. If me, my wife, or one of the kids were to have an emergency and they need to go to the hospital, but then on the way to the hospital, we get all 4 tires go flat, and then something happened, whatever. Let's just think of the most crazy thing.
Right.
I could literally just go into the bank account and handle all of it. The con is my bank account is probably earning 0.002% interest, right? So I checked my bank account the other day, and all the money I have sitting in there, even though I have all the expenses, I can take care of all the expenses. I think I earned 13 cents last month or something.
Oh man, okay.
And then I know people that are like, hey, I still like my money kind of liquid. So they put it in somewhere safe, like they just have it in like bonds or a money mutual account somewhere where they have that expenses and it's earning about 3 to 4%. And they're just like, it's super safe. I'm earning interest. But the problem is if they were to have an emergency, they couldn't get to their money as fast as I can.
Right.
So it's one of those things. So it's a trade-off with that. I personally chose the savings account. I know people that have chose the interest accounts, keep bearing interest, getting account. I mean, I just think any type of savings in this case would be beneficial. But I guess it all depends on your attitude. If you're like, man, here's the caveat. If you're like, man, I got a credit card and I have a credit limit that is equal to 6 times my expense, the 6 months or 3 months of my expenses. Okay, cool. So if you put your money in a savings account, in a savings, mutual savings account or whatever investing account, then you can swipe your credit card today and then just pay yourself back when that money does clear. Cool. But I try not to get into that since we're talking about budgets and stuff like that, because that's interest.
Right.
And you got to take in all the factors, the climate factors, the fees associated. Was it pre, post tax? And then but yeah, I chose the savings account liquid because I have kids and I want to be able to get to the cash as soon as possible with 0 ramifications. Right. But yeah, that's my strategy.
Okay, I get you. So it's kind of like, depending on what your mindset is and kind of what works best for you, you make 6 months total or make it into that versus, 2-3 months and maybe some in bonds or something like a low risk account where you can get to maybe in like 72 hours or something if you really do.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's what you're saying. So would you also, what about the idea, because, this was something, part 2 of the question that we had was, so also while paying off your debt, would you recommend putting in a certain percentage into your 401k?
Okay, so from personal experience, yes, because time values money and you can't beat that. I know people that are 30 and they were paying off, they're paying off their student loans when they turn 24. They're 30 and there's out of student loan debt now, and they're getting ready to start saving all the student loan money that they were paying, like $600 a month, right? Yeah. So they're out of student loan debt and now they're going to start investing at the age of 30. Congratulations, brother. I appreciate it. But also with somebody that was like, you know what? They started paying their student loans at 24 as well, but they were also investing in their 401k from the moment they took their job. and they, at the age of 33, 34, they have been investing for almost 10 years, but they haven't been investing as much as somebody I know is getting ready to invest now. It doesn't matter. They've been investing longer, so they're the winner. Um, and that's just one of the things. Time value money. You can't beat that time. So yeah, I mean, and if you were to like go on Microsoft Excel and get one of those, I think Microsoft Excel has like a spreadsheet that has debt payoff versus like college loan student something versus like investing, and it lets you put in your debt, and then it lets you put in, okay, you can pay this off in 4 years, 4.5 years, or you could pay it off in 10 years but be investing this much and you would have made this much money, and it's a simple spreadsheet. But yeah, I would definitely look at that and consider investing first, because you can't get that time back. And trust me, you're still going to owe that money. They're still going to remind you that you owe that money, but nobody's going to remind you that you're losing time on your investment.
Right,
So,
exactly. So that idea of, being able to using time to be able to maximize how much money that you have, and interest, so it's kind of like, that kind of interest rate that you have a compound that's not linked to time. Okay.
yeah.
So I think we got through all our questions, man. I think, this was really, really good. So let me ask you this. You dropped a whole lot of knowledge on us. I'm really appreciative of that. But let me ask you this. What would you say are the three biggest things? If people left tonight with nothing at all, but you wanted them to walk away with, 2 or 3 biggest things tonight that you would want them to walk away with, what would those things be?
Number one thing I want everybody to walk away with is where you're at now. It's okay, but you are and you will get to a greater financial positioning. Just keep grinding away at it. Don't give up. Don't get distracted. Please don't do those things. Number one thing is keep reaching for your financial goals. They are achievable and you will reach them. The second thing is time values money. The more time you spend investing and the more time you spend investing and the less time you spend in debt will increase your financial stability. And the third thing is just have a great perspective on it. Don't worry about what you can't afford at this moment. And just when you create your budget, look at everything you can afford, and then just actually be appreciative, because there's literally someone that's in your exact same job at your exact same position. But when they do their budget, they can't afford anything. Because right now they don't have an income, right? So it's just be grateful. Don't get so caught up on, man, I can't do this, I can't do this. Just focus on what you can do. Time values money. Invest all you can. Get out of debt.
Yeah.
And, and actually, yeah, just don't lose sight of what the ultimate goal is. We're not here to sit up here and accumulate millions and trillions of dollars and then lay it at the Lord's feet. That's not our goal, right? Our goal is to make $1, invest $1, give $1. Our ultimate goal should always be trying to give back, finding somebody that's just right there on the edge, trying to make it over the hump, and being that financial blessing to help them turn their generations around. So then they can be like, man, I was about to give up, but then, my situation turned. So that's something that I would definitely want people to focus
on. Oh, that was excellent. And I love that last point you made about, because essentially, we're stewards of the money that we are given, right? So, the Bible talks about this idea of the fact that, look, whatever you have when you come to this world, you're going to leave it behind. And so you want to make sure that you use the money in such a way where God will be proud of you and be able to say, hey, I made a difference in somebody's life. But you can't make a difference in somebody's life if you haven't made a difference in your own life, right? So you gotta
Right.
get your own financial house in order. So that's really critical. So Rick, thank you so much for joining us. So
Thank you for having me, man.
oh, okay. Sorry, I've got one more question here. So, and I know
Okay.
a question that we asked before about choosing a financial advisor. So,
Okay.
so how would you choose a financial advisor?
Myself, I would just call and have a legit conversation. Well, COVID-19 is making it hard, but usually you would meet up somewhere and just actually talk out. If I'm the one searching for a financial advisor, me and my wife would sit down and write goals that we want our financial advisor to accomplish. Laid out verbatim. Here's what we want. We want this in savings by the time she retires. We want this in savings by the time I retire. We want this. We want to be living in this location. We want to be immune to inflation. We want our money to be growing at a rate where we aren't, stuck behind the 8 ball. And then you just want to follow up with how they respond, seeing how, okay, well, here's what we usually do for people in your situation. And then get what he's saying or she's saying, follow what they're saying, and then verify what they're saying. That last step is going to be so important. Don't just follow the charts. Well, statistically we do this, and statistically the returns are this. Okay, but I need to know worst case scenario. If COVID-19 turns into COVID 2020 and COVID 21, are you immune? And my money is immune to this? And are you immune to this? Or like, is my money going to keep growing, or am I going to get a phone call that says, hey man, we took some investments, we got aggressive, and you lost.
Right.
Because it's never going to be they lost, right? It's always going to be you lost.
Right.
Got aggressive and you lost. Well, that's how you pick a financial advisor. You set your goals ahead of time, research these guys out online. The beautiful thing is everything's available online. Research them out.
How do you recommend researching online? Like, because, where would is there like a good place to kind of get good information? Because, you may go to their website and, hey, they're telling you all the things you want to hear, right?
That's very true.
That's very true. So, how would you do that?
So I guess the best thing is research the company out overall and follow the reviews, the third-party reviews, the reviews that they can't edit. Like, how like you go to Google and then you just see all the reviews, the third-party reviews. But if you click on the website, those are the reviews that they click approve on, right?
Right.
Those are usually going to be the 5-star reviews. But statistically, you want to read the 3, 4, and 1-star comments. Those are the comments that usually have the most truth in them. Right. And you just wanna figure out, okay, why did they give them a 3-star? Why did they give them 4 stars? I like their service, but they're slow on picking up the phone and they don't move the money when you tell them to. Those are usually the 3, 4-star comments. So you're like, am I okay with this?
Right.
And so I would say research them out that way through third party, word of mouth. If you don't know anybody that's dealing with them in your circle, just try to find any kind of third-party outlet or personal review website. I don't know any off the top of my head, and I can probably look for some, but just any third-party review site on, hey, here's why we trust these financial advisors over here, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Okay. No, that's really useful because I think people struggle, especially in that area. I think oftentimes word of mouth or just, I just had a good feeling with this person. Oftentimes drives that decision, which can lead to all sorts of issues popping up later on.
Very true. So yeah, please verify everything they're saying. If they tell you like, hey man, we had a rough year in 2019, but 16 and 17 was great, and we was able to cover. Okay, and then go back and look and see S&P 500 historically. 2016. Oh, okay. The market was great. Okay. So he's in line. But if he's telling you every year, or she's telling you every year, we make sure our clients are achieving the maximum goals,
Yeah, maybe a Bernie Madoff situation going on with your monies, and so they're telling you to get 15% every year. That's probably not likely. So you have to make sure you're not. If you get too greedy, you're likely going to lose your money.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people are losing their money due to greed. A lot of people are getting caught in Ponzi schemes, and I'm reading on them like, how did they get caught? Like, how did you give him $700,000? And I'm realizing like, oh, he told you he can turn your 700,000 into 4 million, and you just immediately just jumped on it. And so, yeah, don't get greedy. Trust, but verify.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, that person probably took that 700,000 and made it into 4 million by adding it up to everybody else's money that he got and walked away with it.
And then he walked away with it all.
Right, exactly. You didn't get 4 million. All right, Rick. Well, this was great. This was great. And I know that there was a couple things even from our previous discussion that we didn't get to, so maybe we could do a part 2 of this at some point. But thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about how we can contact you. If folks want to maybe talk with you some more, maybe even establish a relationship with you, how can we contact you? What's the best way to get to you?
Okay, the best way to get in contact with me, everybody, is going to be through my personal website. My personal website's down right now, but the personal email address is going to be rickfavors@babybudgets.org. You can shoot me a text at 706-254-1242. That's my number to get in contact with. Or if you just want info on the services that we can provide at Baby Budgets, you can just email info@babybudgets.org, and we'll just send you a brochure to let you know you're not on the hook for anything when you reach out to us at all. Like, you can just be reaching out and just saying, hey man, I'm just sizing you up against the competition. What do you have to offer? And we'll, no obligations, just tell you exactly what we have to offer and just tell you, hey, how we can help you or what you're looking for, and try to get a better understanding. But you're not on the hook for anything, and I think that's the most important thing. So feel free to reach out at any time.
Well, Rick, as I said, it's been great. Thank you so much. You just dropped a whole bunch of knowledge on us, and I appreciate you contributing to our community here at Authentic Marriages. It was great. But thank you so much. We appreciate it. And you just take care of yourself, and God bless. Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
God bless you too, brother. Y'all stay blessed. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Yeah, you take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight.